Hello and welcome to Rosie's Preserving School. And cucumbers. This is, as you can see, it's not homegrown one, but I have called this workshop a surprise of cucumbers, and it is surprising just how nutritious they are and how useful they are and versatile they are. Because I think most of us are kind of used to the sort of pub lunch with some sort of a handful of salad and a few slices of cucumber, which aren't crisp or delicious, and just pushing it to one side and it all goes in the bin, which is a bit of a shame. But I understand, that it serves that purpose, but there's so much more to them than that. So I thought we'd have a little bit of a trot through the things you can do with cucumbers, because people that grow them at home it's a bit like courgettes. You either have nothing or you have so many you don't know what to do with them. So it's sort of for them really, but you can obviously buy cucumbers to do any of these things. I have bought them because I'm in a year where I have nothing. In fact, I've only just potted on my tomato plants. They were so dismal, and now they're in their big pots, but they look stupid because they're only little tiny plants. They've done nothing since March probably, and I will probably be doing what I did last year, which is picking tomatoes in November. So there's no cucumbers whatsoever, but thankfully no courgettes either. So I hope those who want to make this saw that you need to start the day before, which I have done, and I'll show you that in a minute or two. But when you make things with cucumbers, bought or grown, homegrown, you tend to end up peeling them, and you end up with quite a bit of peel in the process. So what I have done is dehydrated that peel. Now, if you can see in jam cam here, that's what they end up like. They're surprisingly tough, actually. I thought I'm going to blitz these in the little food processor, and I went to break them into pieces and I couldn't. I had to cut it with scissors. So they're surprisingly strong. I mean, if I left them really long, I dare say I could sort of plait them into a string or something like the ancestors. But what I did was just chopped them up finely, and I've mixed them with some pink Himalayan salt there to make a flavoured salt. And if you are I don't know what the word is, but if you love it, I think you either love it or hate it, is Bloody Marys with tomato sauce and Worcester sauce and all the rest of it. You can use that to put on the rims of the glasses. I know my son used some 1 year at Christmas, his Christmas party. So that's one way of using them up. And all these things as well that we do dehydrate, you could make it finer into a powder, and any of the summer vegetables, a spinach, some of the outer leaves of a cauliflower, things like that, you can dehydrate and blitz into a powder for a vegetable powder that you can add into soups in the winter. But that's one thing there. Now, I also said last time the strawberry vinegar that we made, the balsamic vinegar, I would show you what I was going to try and do with it. And I have done it, and I don't know yet whether it's worked. This is the strawberry vinegar. Now, we've got our photographer here this evening, Amanda. She doesn't do well with vinegar. She's slightly allergic to it, but I want her to just wave that under her nose to see how strawberryish that vinegar is. I took the lid off this morning to do this, and the smell of strawberries was amazing. So that is the strawberry balsamic. And then what I've done with it, I bought these. These are flavour pearls. I don't know if you've seen them. And that little jar was £8. and I got it at Christmas to put in somebody's Christmas gift and forgot. So it's been on my shelf. But I was going to get that opened because I can't do it with my hand and show you what it's called. They're called pearls. Oh, actually, I'm very pleased with mine, seeing those. That's what it looks like. And that is balsamic vinegar on its own in these little pearls. It's like caviar. And when you put it on a salad or a posh starter or something, you can just sprinkle them on from a spoon and it decorates it. But also when you eat it, they burst in your mouth and release their flavour. So armed with that, I'm going to put those there. I bought a spherificator bottle. Try saying that after some strawberry cream liqueur. Spherificator bottle. Basically, it means it makes a lot of balls. And that's what I've done with my some of my strawberry balsamic. You can do any base. You could do cucumber juice. You could do anything like that. You could make it entirely sweet fruit juice to put onto a cake or a pavlova or something. Now, the instructions for this use a chemical that you put them into, that you make them into. I'm not sure what the chemical is or how kind of nasty it is to eat. I mean, it won't be harmful, but anything that is something you can't pronounce is usually not good for you. So these are made with apple juice. So you can flavor the apple juice and then do that. So basically what I did, I found a recipe online, and this is the spherificator bottle. It's got all these little nozzles in the top and a measure on the side. You can just do it with one of those big syringes. If you've got one of those, you can do it one at a time. I wouldn't bother to, buy the bottle really, unless you're going to do a lot of it. And then you take your liquid, whatever it happens to be, and 100 ml takes 4 teaspoons of gelatin. And you can use any form of gelatin that you are happy with, or you can use agar, which is a powder that you have to sort of mix up and heat, but there's instructions for that. And then you cool the liquid down and you put oil. I'm not using the chemical version, I'm using an oil version. If it's entirely savory, you can use olive oil. But because these have got strawberry in and all the rest of it, and I might not use them on a salad or something, I might put them on something sweet, I used sweet almond oil. And I just put some in the bottle, and you put that in the freezer for 3 hours before you want to make this, because it cools it right down, but it doesn't freeze. So the oil goes in the bottle. You make your thickened mixture with the gelatin. You leave it to cool, and then you just pour it in there. I can never get the top on straight. There we are. This is just silicone, this top. And then you just very gently, I've discovered, just press the sides of the bottle and all the liquid comes out of the nozzles. And as it drops into the oil, it makes the little pearls. You can see them in there. I'll just show you with the light shining on them. I'm going to try and get some with a teaspoon, but I'm afraid that if I do that, they're going to be so delicate that they just flatten. But then that goes in the fridge, and it can stay in the fridge until you need them. They just stay in the oil and they're fine. I've just got the question. Where could you get one? I got this one from a company called Special Ingredients. and they have all sorts of things on there that you really don't want to know. They do great ingredients, so they're a great company, but unfortunately I came across the meat glue on there, and I haven't got it out of my head yet. It's a site for caterers, pubs and hotels and restaurants and things like that, but you can buy from it as a member of the public. I was thinking of you when I was doing this, Elizabeth, because I did think this is going to be brilliant with rose oil and strawberry, whatever in it. It doesn't have to be vinegar or something like that, because the gelatin is setting the liquid. And your question, Brenda, I think they last for sort of 6 to 8 weeks in the fridge. So as you keep them in the fridge, but you can freeze them as well, apparently, but I've not done that. So I'm just going to try and see if I can pick some up. I've not done this bit with these, so I don't know whether they've all set at the bottom. They have, rather. But let me put some. I would have to sort of manipulate these a bit. I think I did them this morning before work and went out and sort of just left them. But you can see there, they're not that different from the ones that I paid £8 for. But anyway, that was a bit of fun that I just thought was sort of something different to do. I'm going to just wipe down where I've dripped vinegar everywhere now. Good. So we've done that. So we're going to move on now to the cucumber dish, which I've forgotten what it's called. Don't think I put it on there. It's a cucumber relish anyway, as you can see from the picture. I need my ingredients. There we are. Now, you start this by chopping the cucumber, the onion and red pepper to about the same size. And you start the day before, you put it into a big bowl or a pan, layered with sea salt, just like we do piccalilli and pickles and things like that. We need to get some water out of them before we then make them into the relish, because it helps the preserve to keep. If it's got too much water in it, it comes out into the vinegar base, dilutes it, and then they won't keep. You need to keep the vinegar strength to around 5% acetic acid level. And if you leave the water in the vegetables, then that won't happen. Now, if you're a beginner, or I say beginner, if you've never made this kind of thing before, don't be alarmed at the amount of salt, because the salt draws the water out. The vegetables don't take the salt in. It's a one-way street. And you need to chop things, put some salt in the base of your bowl or your pan, put a layer of the vegetables in, sprinkle it with more sea salt, put another layer in, more salt and another layer, and so on. And then leave them overnight, minimum of 12 hours, 24 is better. And you can prolong it past that, really, because the salt will keep it for another day. But you will find when you cover it and leave it, and when you take a look at it, it's all sort of floating about in its own water, which the salt has drawn out, and it's now in a brine. So the next stage is to drain it, drain that brine off, and rinse it thoroughly. You don't leave it soaking in water, because it's an osmotic process. And through osmosis, a liquid will always travel to the sort of strongest point. So with the salt, it draws the liquid one way. If you leave it soaking in water, these vegetables now want their liquid levels increasing, so they draw the water back in. and you don't want that. What you want them to do is take the vinegar in when you're cooking the base so that it preserves the cells of your ingredients. So don't soak them, just rinse off any water, any brine, give them a good shake and leave them to drain, which is where the point we're at now. So I'm going to take that off of there and leave it there for a moment and probably make a wet mark on the table, but never mind. And there's some water there that's drained off, which I'm going to empty away because we don't want that cooking into the vinegar. Right. So, got my ingredients there. That's right. So we need the vinegar, the sugar, and the lemon juice and zest into the pan. So I've got, here's my, that's that. The vinegar is cider vinegar, 500 ml, 1 pint. So I get the mils at that side, and my vinegar is here. So I've said before, if you're pouring from these big plastic bottles, whatever it is, turn it on its side, and then it will not glug out all over the table. But neither can I see the measure. It's 450, so that's not too bad. Good guess. There we are, 500 ml. So that is going to go into the pan. Ooh. And the sugar is 250 grams of white sugar. It's here. Oh, I've got my big wooden scoop. 250 grams. $199. 250. Gosh, that's heavy. Jars are heavy before you put anything into them. Right. That can go in. And then I'm going to turn on the heat low for the moment because I've got to juice and zest my lemons. That's it. 3 lemons. Got 3 nice lemons here. I'm going to do that straight into the pan, I think, much as possible. Bit high up for little old me, but never mind. So you'll already get a sense of the taste, the flavour of this relish. Very fresh and summery. And I understand, I mean, we've had summer today. I understand we're going to have summer again tomorrow. So I don't want to get too excited, but one. I do like things I can do straight into the pan because you don't have everything stuck to everything else and lose half of it. These lemons are really big. So and straight. Good. I've got my juicer, my electric juicer out because there's quite a lot of lemons to squeeze, and I want to get all the juice I can, and my hand isn't strong enough really these days. So I cut them in half. Always zest first because there's very little chance of zesting once you've squeezed the juice. Oh, switch it on. There we are. And it's so efficient, you get all the juice out of it this way. It's very, very good. It's well worth getting one of these, because if you're going to use a lot of lemons or any citrus fruit, in fact, it's such an efficient way of doing it. You don't put half of it in the bin. I don't know if you remember last time I did this, it kept slipping and making a noise, and more noise than it usually makes. And I said I didn't know what was wrong with it. Well, I still had the dust cover on, so it was just slipping round on top of the bottom. So never mind. I thought it was one of my favourite pieces of kit that was giving up on me. So okay, done. It's all the bits and pieces. Take off my cover, and there's all of the juice there. No pips. All right. So I'm going to give it a stir and turn up the heat a bit. Now that all that bit is in. and get rid of my machine. And then we're going to, while that's heating up, I'm going to do the other ingredients because we need to put everything in when that has come to the boil and the sugar's dissolved, and then cook it for 5 minutes or until it's heated through. So I'm going to need 3 garlic cloves chopped. Now, these days, it's a bit of a lottery, isn't it? You buy a head of garlic like this, and you don't know till you break it open whether there's going to be any garlic in it. I'm lucky today. Every week, Deborah Robertson, who is a food writer that has moved to near Marseille in France a couple, 2 or 3 years ago. She writes a Substack actually about what's going on. She lives in the port at it's, as I say, near Marseille, and she's got a lovely portside house there, and it's just a tale of French life, which is lovely. And then she does a market haul every week where she shows what she's been to the local market and bought and what she's going to make with it. And it's all really, really fresh. It's locally grown. It's people who've brought the things they've got in their gardens or their farms. And I could weep, I just sit there and pore over this photograph. It's only things laid on a table, but it looks so fresh and delicious. And you think, oh, and the garlic and so on is huge. But it's a good read. If you want to have a look for it, if you Google Deborah Robertson, you'll find, and you can sign up for the Substack to get the newsletter and see. And she has some nice ideas of what to do with things that are quick and easy. She entertains a lot. She has a lot of visitors from London, as you can imagine, living somewhere lovely like that. But it's not expensive stuff, it's all really all this lovely, fresh, wholesome food cooked into simple lunch dishes and things like that. So it's sort of one of the highlights of my week to see what they have literally on their doorstep. And I always remember I was traveling through France to the south of France years and years ago, and we stopped for a break, an overnight stay in a town, and the next morning the local market was in full swing. And one of the market stalls, which is like a British market stall, in the front on the table hanging were all bunches of fresh herbs, and the bunches were about that big round of every herb you could think of. And I just we get a little wet packet in the supermarket, it's so depressing, really, unless you can grow them and get them to grow well. But the only thing that's grown well this year is the mint. So now that hasn't come to the boil yet, so I'll carry on with the other ingredients. We need some fresh ginger, a sort of piece. That piece will be all right. That will give it some heat. So I am going to peel it. I try and get away without peeling ginger as much as possible, but I think it would not add anything to this particular preserve. But when you're going to be straining something, you've added it for flavour, then I wouldn't bother to peel it, because you lose so much of the flesh, really. And I know we've gone through the process of whether it's better to freeze it and then peel it with a teaspoon and all this sort of thing, but it's remembering to do that, isn't it, ahead of when you need it? It's always the problem. Right, good. But just peel it as thinly as you can, you know, not to take too much of the flesh away. Cut out any bits that look a bit brown or bruised. And there is quite a deep bit there which I'll cut out as I'm going, because I can't get at it flat like that. There we are, I can take it off now. And a bit of a gash. And then I'm just going to chop that about the same as the garlic. You know, I have no knife skills and I do the best I can, but I'm not a precise chopper of ingredients. You could do long, sort of like julienne strips if you wanted to make it look amazing. I'm just doing it the same size as the garlic, really. I'm actually going to move that salt because I don't need that anymore. There's no salt in this because of the salting at the beginning, so you don't need to add any more salt to preserve anything. Oh, thanks, Sue, for putting that up. We do this peel. Her newsletter is sort of founded in food, but she talks about everything, her house that's being renovated, local people and all sorts. So it's just a light sort of cup of coffee type of newsletter. You know, you can sit there and for 5 or 10 minutes have a bit of a break. And so that's coming on. I've got the garlic, I've got the ginger. We need 2 tablespoonfuls yellow mustard seeds, a tablespoon. Celery seeds, we want a teaspoon. Celery seeds are minute, they're like dust. But then they smell a bit sort of dry and old like this, but once they're in something, they really come alive. Now I need a teaspoon. What I'm going to do is just put the teaspoonful on the garlic and ginger just to measure it out. And then we need half a teaspoon of turmeric. Now, somewhere here is a very large jar of turmeric powder. I've been through it twice, but I couldn't find it. So I've got a tub that's in my other spice drawer, and I'll use that, but not quite what the look that I need to get a teaspoon. There's a teaspoon. Right, so that's come up to the boil. So I'm going to put the other the fine things in first, the garlic, the ginger, the celery seeds and the turmeric before I put the cucumber mix in. So that's all going in so that it can become part of the base. Because I don't want it to stick to the cucumber and sort of stay there, if you know what I mean. Now you only need half a teaspoon of turmeric. Now don't forget highly yellow pigment in this, and it's a bit like lily pollen. If you get it on your clothes, or sometimes if you're doing a lot and you get it on your skin, it's very difficult. Not impossible, but it's difficult to get out, and you know, it's better not to spill it in the first place. And 2 tablespoonfuls of mustard seeds, so they can go in. They look lovely. And another one. Got some space for them. Well, I can go over there as well. Give that a stir to mix. And that is your sort of relish base. And then you just swoosh in all of the other mixed ingredients from the soaking, brining. And give that a stir to mix it up. Now everyone here is going to start coughing, I think, in a minute, because it gets in your throat a bit, this vinegar. Might need a window open, maybe. It's very pretty though, very pretty mix. And I'm going to leave that to heat through. We don't want to sort of cook it exactly, because it'll all get a bit, you know, soft and so on. I just want to, while that's cooking, talk to you a little bit more about cucumbers. I've got a couple of other recipes there, but the benefits of cucumbers, as with so many things, as we've discovered, all of these sort of things that are kind of pass us by in life, you know, they're not kind of flagged up as being super nutritious, but like all really fresh ingredients, they're full of antioxidants and things like that that help the body to deal with the things that it has to deal with. I'll just read the headings to you. You can look it up online. It's and one of the best ways of getting the amazing properties of the cucumber into yourself, rather than sitting there eating lots of cucumber, is this time of year, is to put it in your water. So just peel strips of it, and you can keep a piece of cucumber in the fridge, and every time you have a glass of water, just peel it in fresh, and it will slightly flavor it, but it will also release all of its properties. So I'm going to put that in there, and if you have a really cold cucumber ready, you can then not have to put ice and so on in your drink, which I find quite unpleasant. It's too cold. So if you then top that up with water and just let it sit for a couple of minutes to release everything, and then you can just sip it or you can drink it down, and really good for rehydrating you. And if you've got a water bottle that you take out exercising, you know, if you're running or something like that, then that's great. You can do exactly that. You can put it in and then just drink the water. And it looks as though it's going to refresh you, doesn't it? It really looks pretty. And I'll give you the lowdown. So apart from hydration, it helps to detoxify the body with the antioxidants. It helps the body cleanse your blood and all the other things that need cleansing all through all parts of the day and night. It really helps with that. It helps your skin health because you're helping your body to cleanse itself. Your skin will improve, your hair will improve. Because the body will be much more efficient. Look, there's pages on it. Blood pressure regulation, heart health, and supports brain health. It's got a flavanol called, I think that's fisetin or fisetin, which supports brain health. And they've done lots of studies into the effect of cucumber on Alzheimer's patients and noted the improvements. I mean, I find these things astonishing. The bits that we've leave on the plate for the pub kitchen to put in the bin or put in the compost, they've got amazing properties, and that's why I called it a surprise of cucumbers. Who'd have thought that it would be like that? The fresher you can have them, grow them yourself, even better. Pick it and deal with it straight away or within the next few hours. You're going to capture the real essence of it. It's very low in calories. It helps you, it gives you fiber if you eat it. It's great to snack on. And I know my girls both used to keep cucumber slices in the fridge and then give them to their babies when they were teething, and they just gnaw on this raw cucumber and it would cool their gums down. And it was sort of hard and soft at the same time. It didn't hurt them, but it just helped to relieve the pain. They're good sources of vitamin A, vitamin B6, and vitamin C, magnesium, and calcium. So this infusion of your drinking water means that those nutrients are coming out into the water. If you drink more, it curbs your appetite and it helps you keep your weight down. It contains silica, and you can feel that when you're peeling them, you get that sort of slightly kind of coating to your fingertips and so on. It helps the body absorb calcium and keeps your muscles strong and healthy. I'm going to skip over the anti-cancer benefits because really, I think the most anti-cancer benefit you can have is to have good nutrition. It's not that one thing is better than another. It's the combination and the regular eating of good, healthy food with its natural nutrients that helps you to stay free of cancer. Not always, as I'm sort of proof of, but and apart from anything else, it's delicious. I mean, there are people that can't stand the taste of it, so that's probably a lost cause. But I thought that was quite. It was quite enlightening when I first found that. Now I'm going to take this off the heat because we're going to put it in the jar. So it's 5 minutes of boiling. So it goes on my heat mat, not on my cutting mat. And on this hob, I'm going to put a pan it's got some water in it and a folded tea towel actually in this instance because I didn't have any. I usually use a J-cloth, but I didn't have any except the one I'm using. So because once this is in the jar, I'm going to start coughing now. You need to water bath it to just secure it. It will then keep, I think it's, I'll put that bit over there. See what the keeping qualities are. yeah, I think it's 3 to 6 months on the shelf, but then once you open it, pop it in the fridge just to be on the safe side. So I'm going to I've got a couple of jars. Stupidly, we raced away from work today and I forgot to pick up any jars. So, oh, golly, I'm just going to fill a couple and then I'm going to water bath them, turn it up. I'm going to have some of my cucumber water. Oh, which is absolutely lovely. And homegrown cucumbers taste so much better than bought ones that have been wrapped up in their plastic jackets. So I'm going to just jar up some of this. Put it right to the top, like that. Ooh. I think this will be lovely with a barbecue. You could have it like American dill pickles. You could have it in a burger or on the side. But I think it would be great in with the burger. Put that there a moment. I'm just going to push that down in. And I'm going to find a couple of lids, I hope. And they can go on. How pretty does that look? Oh, hot. So I put the lids on. I need this to come up a bit in heat, and I'll probably put a bit more water in there actually. Just fill it very high up. Yeah. I'm going to use my tongs because those jars are really quite hot. Now, if you haven't done water bathing before, this is a means of sealing the jars, driving out any air and creating a vacuum in the top of the jar so that the preserve will keep for longer. It's not necessary to do it with things like jam, and something like this is borderline. I think you could probably get away without doing it, but I'm going to err on the side of caution. So I'm going to put the jars in. You can put more jars than this, but I haven't got more jars because I forgot to bring them. They're on a folded tea towel. You can put a folded J cloth or a folded newspaper in the bottom to stop them clattering around on the base of the pan. Because they're already hot, once the water is simmering, you can just time them for 10 minutes and that will be fine. If you're doing something from cold, then you need to get the heat up in the jar and probably water bath for sort of 20 minutes or so. Things like, soft fruit and that kind of thing. But water bathing, when I was young, it used to be called bottling, and I think that's far more straightforward. We now call it water bathing, and you have to explain it to people because the term doesn't really mean anything to anybody. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on that, and I haven't switched it off by mistake. That's good. So along with the salt, now you can do that with white salt. You don't need to use the pink Himalayan salt. It's just I've got a big jar of it and I never use it for anything. So I thought I would today because it's quite pretty with the green. The other recipe on the notes sheet on the recipe download, I've done the salt. The other thing is you can do, as you would expect, cucumber vinegar. Now, again, if you're growing your own cucumbers, you'll find that you have lots and lots and lots of smaller ones that don't really do much, because you get a few that get really big, and then the smaller ones don't kind of have the same energy. But you can pickle those. Well, you can make the vinegar with them. So chop them and do them in the salt, rinse and drain, and then put them in 500 ml of white vinegar in a pan. Add the cucumbers plus 3 chopped shallots and a pinch of cayenne pepper. Heat it up 3 or 4 minutes and put it in a large jar and leave for a week. And then you strain it and bottle it. And then the cucumber vinegar is great for salad dressings and that kind of thing. You have some more water. Okay. And I found this little bit of cucumber history about it's at the bottom there. In southern Mesopotamia, this guy Ur-Nammu, which was the Sumerian 3rd dynasty, had the first garden that's known, formal garden. And he specialized in growing cucumbers of all things. But they were practically indigestible, and some people find that's the case today. They can't tolerate them at all. But he had them made into a chilled cucumber soup, which people raved about, and it was very, very popular. And of course, the summers were really hot, so it was very cooling and everything else. But so they go back a long, long way. Now this is just heating up, and what you'll find is that there'll be a few bubbles that come out. I haven't got these covered in water. I need to do that in a minute, but it will take a bit of time to heat it all up, so I won't delay you, but you will see sort of bubbles coming out into the water. Simmer them and do it for about 10 minutes, and that should be sufficient. Take them out and put them on the side. Make sure the caps are done up tight, and then leave them until they're cold, and then you can store them or put them in the fridge, whatever you want to do. Okay. I haven't been looking at questions. Let me have a quick look. Deborah Roddy, the water bath, the coronation chutney you posted on Facebook last week, will it also keep for 3 to 6 months on the shelf like this cucumber relish? That's Elizabeth. Mine keeps on the shelf anyway, Elizabeth. I don't water bath it, but I mean, you could do. I'm trying to remember the ingredients. It should, yeah, you could water bath it. There's nothing in there that would be, you know, it hasn't got any kind of thickener in it, is what I mean, because that might split if you water bathed it, but it should be fine. And Brenda's saying her dehydrated mushrooms are wonderful. Second time they were rubbery. Well, they're always rubbery, really, because you've taken the water out of them. So, you know, they tend to be rubbery. They never go crisp. And I've got a whole big jar of rubbery mushrooms, so I wouldn't worry. They still blend down into the powder. That's my favourite way of having them, is to blend them into a powder and then use them in things, in risotto and things like that. They're incredible. So, you know, powdered dried mushrooms is my way to go, but you can keep a few in a jar on the shelf in case you need mushrooms in something and you need to rehydrate them. Okay, how long will cucumber vinegar keep? Oh, it's vinegar. It will keep, you know, you'd use it before. I can't imagine vinegar going off, to be honest. So you'll be fine. You've taken the water out overnight by salting it, and so you won't have lessened the acidic level enough to compromise the vinegar. So just make sure you use vinegar and not non-brewed condiment, which looks and smells like vinegar, but is only good for, you know, chips, basically. Okay, I think that's all the questions answered. All the process is done. I hope you have some fun trying out some new things with cucumbers, and I'll see you next week when it's all about butter. So let's hope it's sort of cooler next week. Okay, I'll see you then.